I'd be happy to look over and, you could record me at a later date and give it to them or whatever you want to do. I'm really easy. I'm one of the most accessible people I know.
That's perfect because we actually have a list of questions for you. So
okay.
Definitely send that over your way. And so I kind of have two questions for you. One, because what you talked about kind of piqued my interest. What was it like being a woman in leadership in the Black Panther Party? And our second question comes from the audience, from someone named Justice Now. Said, Dr. Brown, I know it's Miss Brown, but your awesome work. Do you think Black people are confused and being gaslit by sentiments of white ignorance to racism?
Wait a minute, would you repeat the question?
Of course. Do you think Black people are confused and being gaslighted with sentiments of white ignorance to racism?
And being, what was that verb? Being what by?
Gaslighted.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't want to get it wrong. Does somebody else specifically know what it means?
That's why I didn't understand, because I'm not.
Gas.
What do they mean by gaslighted? Does anybody know?
Gaslight, to manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity. If they're right or wrong.
Right. Okay, I get. Thank you, brother. All right, so on being a woman in the party, I mean, a lot of people ask this question because they think that the party was filled with thugs and people who were chauvinists and pig, whatever. But what amazes me is that it suggests that the women in the party weren't revolutionaries, and we were. So it's kind of insulting to us. And secondly, it's like, what? I'm somebody's. I'm trying not to be too crude. I'm just going to take an ass whipping or be treated badly. It's like, are you insane? You think I was in the Black Panther Party to be abused by men? Thirdly, we were strapped just like a man. It wasn't a sister in the party that wasn't strapped. I carried a 38 up until the time I moved out of the country, but that's another story. So my point is, anybody, if you were to see any man in the Black Panther Party right now, they called me chairman. They didn't even call me chairwoman, chairperson. I was called Chairman Brown. So my point is, yes, we had chauvinism. We didn't get these brothers from revolutionary heaven, and we didn't come from revolutionary heaven. We came from a paradigm of patriarchy and racism and capitalism. How were they going to suddenly become revolutionary scholars? They weren't. They took attitudes. They had, this is my bitch and all that other kind of stuff. And we said stuff, and we relegated ourselves to certain roles that we thought we were supposed to in the beginning. Huey Newton used to say, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm just a plain born child. A lot of men didn't like that too much, because they wanted him to be a man. As a matter of fact, Huey Newton in 1970, before he got out of prison, stated that that he analyzed that the Black Panther Party had to recognize that the homosexual, as he put it at the time, was an oppressed person, and that we understood the homosexual, and therefore we embraced the liberation struggle for gay liberation. Now, gay liberation was the way we called it then. We don't even talk about gay liberation anymore. They just want to be gay. They don't even want to have liberation. They just be gay. So anyway, so we were the only Black organization that recognized that gay liberation and then women's liberation were a part of our agenda. Very few people said that. Now imagine why somebody would ask me about what it was like to be a woman in the sense of what, was I oppressed? Did I have to struggle? Yes, I struggled, but so did a lot of men struggle, and so did a lot of other women. But the sisters that in the party are some of the baddest sisters you ever gonna meet. I just can't begin to explain to you how tough you had to be in the Black Panther Party 24 hours a day. And most of us ultimately evolved at a certain level. Our goal was to evolve, to become revolutionary in our culture within the Black Panther Party. We were from the street. We were from the United States patriarchal, racist, capitalist system. Where were we going to get any kind of other cultural norm? So we attempted to do that by many, many ways. Brothers cooked, sisters held security. People were artists. I mean, Emory was an artist, and yet you still everybody had to hold security. Everybody had to sell papers. We didn't get any break because the women were like the little women, whatever. Everybody did everything, but most of your assignments, and you were assigned, it was a paramilitary structure. If you were assigned to a job, it was because you're probably better at that job. But you didn't have a lot of choices about the job. But fundamentally, you had to sell papers. You had to clean up, you had to study. Those are things you had to do. I don't care what you were. We didn't have gender assignments, in other words. Now, we had chauvinists, we had a whole bunch of stuff, We didn't allow it. You know, if you talk to some sisters like Phyllis Jackson or Donna Howell, these are bad sisters. Well, nobody gonna jump on some. I wish you would think you were gonna jump on me. So it was, the Black Panther Party was just a strange entity, but it wasn't like, nobody ever asked the NAACP why they never had a woman in leadership. SCLC never had a woman in leadership. You follow me? So yeah, we had women, but the women were just as bad. There was no, I would say that the sisters that were in the party were so cold-blooded. I mean, I talked, a lot of us are still alive. And, you know, they'll laugh and tell you something. I wish that Negro would do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. So, and we're like that in the street today. I'm like that today. Old as I am, you know, my attitude is, what you gonna do? I know you're not better than me, because you know why? I lived this long to tell the story, okay? And I've been through hell and back. And as I used to say back in the day, you don't see no cuts on my face, which was a badge of honor when you grew up in North Philly, where I grew up, where you could get cut, sliced with a razor blade. So no, I would say that being a woman in the party, we were the minority. And some people like to say we weren't, but that's not true. We were the minority. We loved our brothers. They loved us. We didn't really, I mean, I can't begin to tell you how incredibly free thinking we were in the Black Panther Party. I mean, people, remember, this was the era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll also. So there was a whole other thing going on. But in essence, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to the universe that I was born in a time when I could be a member of the Black Panther Party, that my significance in life, that if you remember me, you will remember me because I was in the Black Panther Party. That's all I can say. Now, on the other thing, affecting our minds, well, I talked about that from the beginning. We have embraced everything this white man has taught us, unfortunately. It's hard not to. Like people say, I never heard about that when I was in school. Well, no, who's writing a story about Thomas Jefferson as a, who's writing a story about Thomas Jefferson as a racist slaveholder? You ain't got that in your little American history books. They still talking about George Washington never told a lie, you know, stuff like that. I mean, am I right? Aren't kids still learning stuff like this in like elementary and junior high school? I mean, we're not learning about, when do you learn about the Black Panther Party? You know, we don't get real information and we have no other resources. So we have only been inculcated with the ideas of a person that thinks that they are superior, inherently superior. I have to, every day of my life, I feel, if I step out of my house, and in coronavirus times, it's not that often, I'm going to have a problem with some white person. At the most minimal contact, getting out of my car, going into a little grocery store, some white person is going to think they have some type of privilege or superiority, and then I have to make a decision. Am I gonna cuss this person out and have a whole issue going on? Or do I have to eat this today? What is it that I have to do every day? Every day. So when you are bombarded like this every day with white superiority and sense of supremacy, every little teeny thing, and this, I hate people that spend a lot of time on vignettes, but I have to tell this. So I'm in a market. All I'm buying is some cheese and stuff to have a little meeting at my house. I got to hurry up. I don't have time for two. It's a Whole Foods, right? Give me the little cheese, give me some grapes, give me some wine. I'm going home. I'm standing in front of a big bin of cheese. White woman walks up to me and says, could you move? Now, this was the moment where I could have just said nothing and kept on going. I said, and I have to cut out all the cursing I did. I said, I know goddamn well, now this is the light part. I know goddamn well you didn't just say that to me. Did you actually say that? Oh my God, I just want to get something. I said, well, guess what? So do I. Step away. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. Went and got the manager. Manager comes over. I said, I know you're not going to speak to me about, because now I'm not moving. I'm locked down. I'm like, I'm going to buy all the cheese. And if I don't, I'm going to mess up a whole cheese display because I'm capable of that. So don't say anything else. Nobody say anything to me. She's just refusing to move when I asked her. I said, that's right. And I'm refusing to move now. Then the manager was like, ma'am, I can't do anything. Just wait until she's finished, yada, yada. goes and gets a security guard with a gun. Oh, I took out my phone. You know, I can never figure out how to record, by the way, but I act like I'm recording. So I took out my phone. Oh, I know this is not going to be one of those police incidents where you think you're going to put your hand on me, because it's not going to end up like that. You understand? You are never going to get to your gun. That's not going to happen. The best thing for you to take this white girl away from me. Now this, to get some cheese. I ain't even want 4 items. I just wanted cheese, you know what I'm saying? And it's every day. So when you are bombarded by this sense of privilege and supremacy every day, you start believing, unless you got some kind of history and something to bolster you, you start believing, I should have moved for this white woman. And it's the little stuff that creeps in until by the time you get to be an adult or whatever, you have embraced a philosophy and an ideology and a way of thinking that denigrates and demonizes even your own people and your own family and yourself. You don't like the way you look. You hate yourself. You hate how you look, how you talk. You hate everything. You don't talk like that in front of a white man. You know, white people enter the room, everybody gets quiet. We get into the white thing, you know, it's like, yeah, girl. And then next thing you know, and what I was thinking, you know, we have our white boys. We all know we have our white boy. We have our white boys, right? So my point is, we used to say back in the day, I'm just trying to be black in a white man's world. And it's very difficult because it is not our world. Remember, that's what my theme was. It's not our world. And we got to make it our world. So for me, it's not bizarre that we have ended up very confused about what we ought to be going for. They're like, remember the whole thing on the Black Lives Matter marches after Breonna Taylor and after it was like, they're the good protesters. You remember that? The nonviolent protesters and the bad protesters, right? Because white people defined for us which one of us was good and bad. Now, we don't mind the peaceful protesters. We love them. We love Black Lives Matter as long as you don't get violent. Now, there are the bad people, and they are violent, and they are throwing rocks, and they're doing this, and that's something. And so now you find people actually saying, I don't mind peaceful protests. Who the hell are you to define what the hell I'm going to say? We already have bought into that. Well, let's not make the white man mad now. Don't get out of line. Don't do no weird stuff. I told you at some point, maybe I didn't say this in the general conversation, but here in Oakland, we had a little teeny uprising over George Floyd. Somebody tore down, they went to the Honda dealership. Now there's a Mercedes dealership. You think they'd go in there, right? But no, they went to the Honda dealership. But anywho, they went to the Honda dealership. And I think they get one car at least. They broke out the windows. Excuse me. They broke out the windows, and they stole a car maybe or something like this. And then they tore up the Target that was on Broadway. They just went down the same little street, right? Broadway, a main artery in Oakland. I cannot tell you about the Black people that I ran into the next day that could not talk because they were so upset that their Target had been destroyed. I'm so confused by that, I can't even begin to tell you. I am confused by Black people being confused, as you say, the gaslighting issue, right, Brother Desmond? How you could be Black and be confused. You're upset, but why would we do this to the Target that employs so many Black people for like 10 cents a minute? You know what I mean? Whatever it is. So, and I'm thinking, I hope that they take something from the Target, because it's not a hell of a lot to take. Wasn't even a big Target, where you could go get like a heater and some big stuff. You can't get no big stuff from this particular Target, it's a small Target. And then you had the elected officials telling me, I worked hard to bring Target to that corner, and look what Black people have done to it, which might not have even been Black people, but who cares? Like, you're really agonizing over a Target. So we become so inculcated with what is right and wrong with our behavior that we're not afraid to even act on our own. We got to think about, is this all right with white people? Now, the only thing I think we have to think about is, am I going to get a case from this? That's what I was telling you young people from Black Lives Matter, don't get no case. It's called you got to do some stuff where you don't get a case. You follow what I'm saying? Now, that's the best I can do for you guys. as of today. Don't get a case. But other than that, let's just try to get past the definition of who we are according to some white reporter. Here's Chris Cuomo. Now your brother done gone down on hiding dead people. But you know what I'm saying? You out here talking about what's wrong, what's right, and who are the good marchers, and you and Don Lemon having a love affair, talking about who's the good black, and Van Jones, we can't speak about that. So we don't have any spokespeople. Look at Van Jones. That's a goddamn disgrace. You know who I'm talking about when I say Van Jones? You know his ex-wife was Billy Carter's daughter. Now you got to look that up to see what I mean. So anyway, my point is we have to redefine ourselves, and it's very hard because you are overwhelmed by day-to-day bombardment of racism and a sense that white people have, day-to-day little minor white people. White people don't even have anything, think they're better. So you got, like, you know, all these the little viral videos that you see where, did you see that sister where the white woman called her a nigger, and she took her purse, had her purse in one hand and just wore that woman out with the other hand. It was just absolutely fabulous. But anyway, she had like a little designer purse on her one arm, and she just wore that woman out with the other arm. But anyway, this is what we have to make choices about every day. And that's why we have to be careful about choosing the fights, being strategic. But on a day-to-day basis, it's hard as hell to be bombarded by the amount of racism and not begin to think in terms of what you've got. The news media, you've got all this other stuff that bombards you with the ideas of racism, that you begin to embrace it and you begin to feel like you're not okay. That's the truth.